So you can think of a balanced chemical reaction in a couple of ways. You can think of it as telling you the number of molecules that need to react, or you can think of it as the number of moles that need to react. So for example, to balance this chemical equation here, we've got hydrogen and oxygen. So if I put a 2 in front of this guy, that'll give me 2 oxygens and 4 hydrogens. So I'll put a 2 in front of this guy and get 4. And there's a 1 in front of the O2. So we want to write some examples here of mole ratios from that equation. So I can take this first mole ratio and just flip it around. And that gives me another mole ratio that I can use. We also know that for every 2 moles of H2, that there's going to be 2 moles of H2O. So we can write that and flip it to get some more mole ratios here. And we also know that for every 1 mole of O2, there's going to be 2 moles of water. So we can also flip this one to get another mole ratio. So this mole ratio is a conversion factor that we can use to convert from moles of one thing in a chemical equation to moles of another thing in a chemical equation. So to solve A here, we need to put mole of hydrogen on bottom, and we want moles of oxygen on top, because that's what my answer is in. So I'm going to use this mole ratio to solve, which is why we get 1.5. Once again, mole of O2 can go on bottom here to cancel out, and then mole of H2O goes on top. So that ratio is 2 to 1, which is why we get 4.6. For this one, we want to change moles of H2O into moles of H2. So I'm going to have 2 to 2 here. So my answer is going to be 1.7 moles. Here, we want to change moles of hydrogen into moles of water. And so that ratio is 2 to 2, and we get 8.7 moles for our answer. So how is a mole ratio used like a conversion factor? So we can convert from moles of one thing inside our chemical equation here we can convert this into moles of another thing. So we're able to convert from moles of A, moles of whatever, to moles of B. So what's the mole ratio of H2 to H2O? There's 2 moles of H2 for every 2 moles of H2O. So in this question, it says, suppose you had 20 moles of H2 and unlimited O2. How many moles of water could you make? So we're going to go from moles of H2 into moles of water. And that ratio we just said was 2 to 2. So I'm going to be able to make 20 moles of H2O. Now for oxygen, we have 1 mole of oxygen for every 2 moles of H2O. So if I had 20 moles of O2, I know that for every 1 mole of O2, there's 2 moles of H2O. So 20 moles of oxygen, assuming we have enough hydrogen, is going to make 40 moles of water.